Good afternoon, everyone. Good Monday afternoon. It's a nice, beautiful, sunny day here in Sacramento, and I hope that you're having the same. I know we've all, just like a lot of other folks, we've had enough weather to last us the rest of the year already. So it's great to have a beautiful day, and we appreciate you taking time out of your day to jump in with us. We're going to go ahead and get started here pretty quick. We're giving a minute for everybody to get in. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. So we just wanted to take a short few minutes of your time to give everybody an opportunity to understand who CalCAPA is. I know early on there's a lot of new folks, and so we know sometimes everybody doesn't necessarily know who we are or what role we play in the energy network. So we wanted to hop on and take a minute to describe what we've worked with CSD on so far. A lot of you do know us from our previous work around work groups, but we are attempting to do more work than that. As many of you are aware, we received a massive amount of funding under LIWAP for the network, and the network's out there doing that work. And we understand that a majority of the work right now is just about getting the dollars out the door. But in the meantime, just like with LIHEAP, or many of you may know us from CSBG, the Community Service Block Grant, there's also training and technical dollars that are associated with each new grant that comes out. And CalCAPA was a beneficiary of that. And so we don't want to misuse those dollars. While we continue to receive new funding, we want to take that opportunity to use those dollars in order to make our network even stronger as new programs continue to happen. So without further ado, I want to introduce CalCAPA first. CalCAPA is the member association for the CSBG network, the Community Service Block Grant Network. We have 60 members that are community action agencies. 32 of them are private nonprofits, and 28 of them are public entities. And so we represent all sorts of things that they do, typically just around the work that they focus in poverty. So whether it is LIHEAP, LIWAP, Head Start, weatherization, food distribution, all those types of programs. So a lot of folks see us sometimes as the CSBG association, when in reality, we do a lot more than that because of all that our agencies and all that you guys do. So that's who we are. So the next question is, so what do you actually do then? Well, I want to tell you about our future plans with LIWAP and what we have laid out. Our grant with CSD for LIWAP actually goes through the remainder of this year, which gives us a little bit more time to continue to work with agencies. So we wanted you guys to know everything that we're able to offer. As CalCAPA as an agency has three major areas that we focus on. What we'll mainly be talking about today is the training and technical assistance support for all that our agencies do, and then anybody that does any work within the poverty sector or working below families of low income. We want to make sure and give them that technical assistance support on all types of things. And so we wanted to make sure that people that may not have used our services in the past didn't know about all the technical assistance. So we have Lawrence Heiner is on the call with us today, and he oversees all our training and technical assistance. And again, if it's something we don't have in-house, we typically are pretty good at finding contractors and other supportive people that can help us in those areas. The next thing we do is CSBG network-wide communications. Where Jordan Cox is on our agency, and then she works with a consultant. We have invested quite a bit of dollars into making sure that we communicate, because a lot of times you guys are extremely busy doing the actual work. So it's up to us to make sure that we help you celebrate that work. Not only so people know what resources are out there, but so what people that are making decisions, whether here in Sacramento or in Washington, D.C., understand all that our community actions and all that our energy services network do on a daily basis to make sure that families in need get those resources. So we spend a lot of time and a lot of dollars on focusing in getting those network-wide communications out, both internal and external. So it's quite a bit of a work for us. The next piece is public education and advocacy. So a lot of what we have to do is you have to tell people how good you are. And it's you wouldn't think that you would have to do that, but a big part of a lot of our work is making sure that we're here in Sacramento and having those conversations so that people are really aware of all that's out there. So specifically, just to tell you a little bit about our staff, of course, I'm David Knight, I'm the executive director here. We have Lawrence Heiner that I've already introduced. Also, many of you may know Pooja. Pooja is our projects coordinator and specifically works a lot on LIWAP. We also have Sarah Wright. She's our administrative coordinator. One of the things we say, if you can't find anybody else, you can always find Sarah. She said she's available 7 days a week, 24 hours. No, don't try not to call her on Saturdays, but she is the one that holds us together and keeps everybody in line. And then, as mentioned before, Jordan Cox oversees our events and communication. So anytime you need any resources around with press releases or social media output, she's the person you would contact, and you're able to get that. And of course, you can always reach out to me as well. So without further ado, I want to jump right into what is our plan. This will be just a short little oversight, but we wanted everybody to know what that plan is so that when we started making those phone conversations or phone calls, that everybody would understand what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do that. Again, this funding comes through LIWAP, but it's bigger than LIWAP. It's about our agencies and the service providers being able to provide all types of services in a very efficient and effective manner. So again, we're not just talking about how do we get dollars out the door in the next 6 months, but more importantly is how do we look at the agency as a whole to make sure that we build capacity throughout our energy services network. So without further ado, let me jump right in. So the first thing is the first target on us is coaching, mentoring, and leadership development. One of the conversations that we want is we always say we're only as strong as our smallest agency. And so ultimately what we're trying to do is to make sure that we have a personalized approach. And this is not just for executive leadership. This is all types of leaderships in your agency. So one of the projects that we're working currently with a consultant on is for us to help and develop, a talent and program intelligence so that we understand, tools and things that people could, gain in their experience as a leader. And how do we match up individuals across the state with other ones that lead in the same way that they do. So one of the first things we're putting together is to go out and really be able to personalize that approach to who the people are in your agencies that are leaders. And we'll have a system in place that'll help us match up. What we're thinking is probably smaller work groups. A lot of times when we get on a large call with a work group, or a round table that has everybody in the agency or everybody in the state, excuse me, then it becomes a little bit difficult for everybody to be able to interact. And so what we're going to try to do is go out and create something that allows us to match up folks based on the type of agency that they lead, what is their leadership style, and focusing in on that and be able to match folks up together so that we can continue to mentor among each other within our network. So that's the first piece. The next part is, and you see this is green because it's about the money. It's about funding and grant management. So our focus here is really having effective grant strategies. One of the things we're all very aware of is the mass amount of funding that's coming into our agencies. And what we wanted to be able to do is to take a step back and to understand better how do agencies receive that funding? How do they make adjustments when they add $1 million, $2 million? Some agencies have added $10 million in grant revenue. And so understanding and being able to really follow those grants and be able to understand and to achieve the success in those is a big focus for us. On this, we're also working with the consultant to come in and do some exercises on what we talk about workflow. And we also want to talk about targeting. And what we mean by targeting is how do we understand exactly if we know that we have to spend out $5 million in the next 6 months, how do we make sure that we're hitting daily targets, that we're hitting weekly targets? How does that mean around staffing? How many staff do I need to have? How many hours do they need to give towards this program? So being able to really target in, this is where we'll focus on both the fiscal office and program office. And be able to work with folks how that you're able to build your team within your own agency to make sure that we're hitting those targets along the way, so that everybody's, we're not shocked when we come to the end of a grant cycle and there's still funding on the door. So this is, again, we'll just focus, primarily on LIWAP and use it as an exercise. But again, all the grants that we run, you can be able to take these experiences and put towards that as well. The next piece is where we focus really on program development, implementation, and evaluation. So really what we want to be able to do is assist, successfully plan, develop, implement, and evaluate their program planning and development of their fundamental processes to conduct outreach and receiving client applications. So this is a big focus around communications. And one of the things that we want to be able to do is really help agencies understand how to dive into their data to understand exactly who they're serving. One of the biggest pushes that we're getting from CSD is how do we continue to add new clients? And as new people come into poverty, their age changes, the demographic of who they may be changes, maybe the geographic location of where they're located within your city or your towns may change. And so it's being able to use that data to really implement the program and how do we deliver it. It also goes over into communications and what communication tools that we use. One of the data evidence that we have through our research is that a lot of our agencies use Facebook, but when we look at it, a lot of the clients that we need to reach may not be using Facebook as much because it's a different clientele that uses that versus some other social media forms. So it's really working that out, working through with each one of our agencies, but also doing it from a statewide approach so that we can shift some of the communications. But it's also the process in which we receive client applications. whether those are strictly online or do we do it through mail? Do we do it face to face? What are all the different options? And how does that fit a different type of client that we may not have reached in the past? And so that's one of the focuses we'll look at there. And this will be a whole statewide initiative, but also we'll work with each individual agency to look at it. And the only way we can really be able to make adjustments to the way that we accept applications is really understanding the systems in which we currently have and how those agencies or how that system allows us to receive applications. And so we'll take a big dive into that with all our agencies. And that's one of the big technical assistance approaches that we're going to focus on. The last one's a little different, but it is a part, like I said, we have dollars that are within this that are bigger than just LIWAP. We also want all agencies to know that we have strategic planning development. And what this does is allow you to step back and look at the agency as a whole, because there may be things that systematically have to change to the way that you operate completely so that we're better suited in the future to even expend dollars at a rapid rate, or how do we add other programs and how do they fit to our overall model? And this gives us an opportunity to put dollars towards when you're looking at maybe staff development, or you're looking at how do I change my building space, or how do I change to a more hybrid work environment, looking at those big strategic planning things that have to occur so that when you get down to the program level, it works as well. The last piece that I want to talk about is communications. When we talk about communications, it's really within the community. How do we reach them? So we have spent a lot of dollars on making sure that we understand better about who is needing that LIWAP, who is really needing all the resources that we have, and how can we possibly better reach them. I know a lot of times we've relied a little bit on CSD to put information out. And so we're taking that with some of the advantages of being an association versus a state office, and how can we actually get that communication out to a larger audience. The example being, they recently put out a press release regarding the new LIWAP and how the now you can pay current bills. And they send it out through their channels, and it only went to a couple of different places, picked it up. What we're able to do is invest more dollars into that to get that information more spread out across the state and really focus in on the areas that we need to spend. So we're going to continue to do that. As said before, we're going to continue to advocate and make sure that we're in the best position to understand what are the issues with the program. We're very aware of some of those things that have come up. And we want to be able to make sure that the LSPs are constantly advocated on what they actually are trying to do, because there is so much money that's coming through. So again, like I said, I just wanted to have a short presentation to show those areas, but I do want to open up the floor if there's any questions about what we do, what our role is, or if you have any comments or thoughts around how we could better serve you. Are there any comments or questions or concerns or things people would like to know about more about us and what we're offering? Well, the next steps coming forward are going to be, Pooja's going to really start reaching out to a lot of folks to see specifically what can happen. Freddie, I see your hand up. Go right ahead.
Yeah, Dave, I got a question. Do you think that maybe somewhere down the line, you can kind of create a DOE training concept of how to work DOE? I know a lot of us that are brand new into the energy program are kind of trying to figure out how to allocate funds back and forth. There's a lot of guidelines and stuff that are still kind of gray area. We've asked CSD for kind of some guidance on it. And, all the answers we get most of the times are not straightforward answers. They're kind of like, well, you do this, you do that. And so we would, something down the line, maybe you can kind of create a training of allocation of funds, what's legal, what's not legal, sure. And, how to make DOE work for various weather conditions.
Yeah, so two of the things that we've done so far, Freddie, and thanks for the question, is to advocate for us as a whole network around being focused on the staffs that we have across the state. And so because the new DOE money is still so new, we're really pushing with David Scribner and the whole team to really hone in and focus in on how many people we actually have across the state that have all the skills to actually begin to start to complete houses that we need to. And again, as everybody knows, it's such a mass difference. So that's the first thing. The second piece is on our communication side is helping formulate better communication around what is qualified, what we can do, what we can't do. So that's been our work so far. We are not engaged necessarily in the contract with them around DOE, but we're heavily involved in it because we do know it affects the families that we serve. So, but we can definitely look more into it if it's something you guys are interested in, still see a need out there. Cecilia?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, hello everyone. First, I would like to thank you for organizing this meeting. I mean, I've attended some of the CalCAPA conferences, and I was kind of impressed about how you run things and how you work with the members of your organization. So that's a great thing, and I was really happy that you got involved with this CSD as far as the LIWAP conversations are concerned. And I look forward to having more meetings and conversations with you and your group, primarily because it would be good to have another association or agency involved in, let's say, imparting, important training, like what Freddie said. Maybe some of the LSPs would be requiring additional training, which you can provide or which you can organize and get the experts in place. The other things that I would possibly look at assistance from your end is if a training facility and the conduct of training for some of the CSD training that we need for our staff can be conducted here in Southern California, because I mean it's very tiring for us for the past like so many years, more than 5 years now, I think, where we have to send our staff over to up north to pursue the hands-on training that used to be provided here in Southern California. So on top of the huge expense that we have to incur for those of us here in the South, is not only for the per diem, the board and lodging, the transportation, we have to fly them there. We have to rent, vehicle for them to go to the training. And then, if they fail, then we have to do the same thing over again. And I'm thinking in terms of like, hey, there are facilities here in the South that can be utilized by RHA to conduct their training, but it seems as if they're not being persuaded enough to do so. So, and they just keep on saying like, oh, we'll just conduct it in Stockton, and everybody just takes it, without any comment. And I've been saying this for the past like 3, 4, 5 years, and CSD keeps on promising us like, hey, yeah, we were going to do it. We're looking to that, but 5 years has passed and it's still not done, or nothing has. I'm not sure if they had done something behind the scenes, but we had not been informed of any move to have a training facility for CSD required training to be implemented here in the South, not only up in Stockton. And I know that, there's many of us who would be very appreciative if you can help in this effort.
Yeah, so I appreciate that comment, and I'll be honest, we can do a better job. And Jason Minsky and I have had some early conversations about the BIL and the mass amount of funding that's coming with it, what the requirements are going to be. And by requirements, I mean what are the level of staffs and trained staffs that we need all across the state and where we're at. I had a wonderful opportunity to speak with the agency that's outside of Chicago. And look at exactly how do they time that out, right? How do they plan that out? Because there's a couple different factors. First of all, you've got to recruit staff, and we know that's very difficult, and they got to have a certain skill set to be able to accomplish these goals. And it's a competitive market. Outside the nonprofit market, it's very competitive to find individuals to first of all do this job. And so once we are able to target folks and bring them on, then there's at least at bare minimum nearly a 6-month time frame to get them the formalized training that they need to have. And so there's two factors in that. First of all, they're adult learners, and so you can't jam pack everything into 1 month and expect folks to be able to take all that information. And then the second piece is these are individuals and individuals with families. And so if you pack them up and say, I need you to go somewhere for a month, then we start losing more people because they're like, well, I can't be away that long, or I can't be gone, 5 days at a time away from my family. So it's being able to understand that, not even mentioning, like you said, the cost that's associated with putting someone in a hotel and transporting them and doing all that. It starts to really eat into the TNTA dollars, but then also starts to build, our per house unit cost up as well, because you have those folks on staff already. So we're definitely in those conversations.
Like when they're in training, of course, there is a slack in terms of like who is going to do the work that they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
In the meantime, like like travel time and all that. And of course, like the toll on families, of course, being away from their family for 1 week, is a little bit, difficult for some people. And this is something that like we've been asking for agencies here in Southern California. The other thing which actually, like Jug, you brought up and, actually was that CalCAPA could help in reaching out to other states and finding out how do they conduct this program. And maybe we could, like learn from them. They could also learn from us. And we can come up with a best practices or a way to make the implementation of the DOE program and even LIWAP program much easier, because in the scheme of things, the share of California in the DOE program is very minimal, and considering the massive population that we serve, it doesn't seem as if it is appropriate allocation of resources. But we here in California is, like hobbled by the fact that DOE is still, like biased towards cold climates versus hot climates. They haven't still, like implemented and recognized that summer is 365 days here in Southern California, and there are more people now dying of heat rather than cold. So these things is just like putting, like the program in perspective as far as climate and the way they evaluate how the program is leaning towards.
No, you're right, and there's two factors with that. Is how much do we spend now, both in LIHEAP and in DOE and even in utility assistance and weatherization. So there's a lot of pushback when we talk about the dollars. And I said, one of the things that we advocated for in DC was, you're looking at dollars out the door. First of all, it's a lot more expensive to do business in California than anywhere else. And so when you're talking about dollars per staff, it's a lot higher. And what we're saying is, when you have that same across the board, it's not equal. You think it's equal, but it's not. Everybody gets the same. And I said, it's not equal, because a dollar where I'm from in Mississippi is a lot different than a dollar here. And so it's understanding that. And so we advocated for that first, to talk about understanding it. The second thing is changing the conversation both on LIHEAP and DOE. There was a high-ranking DOE official at our conference a couple of weeks ago, and he made the comment. He said, well, this cold weather program, and I was just like floored that's still the message at a high level, that these programs are built to overcome cold. And I was like, they were in 1970, but they're not anymore. Like, that may have been when it was built, but see, that message is still out, right? So that urban legend of that's what these programs are built for. And we know, and again, warm weather states kind of get the shaft on that deal. And so, yeah, we're definitely having those conversations and saying, we're not asking for special case, but what we really are saying is understanding that it's got, California's different in that sense. And the last piece I'll say on that is our push is to say, well, we know that California is the lion's share of the country's dollars. So if that's the case, wouldn't you want us to operate, have the dollars to be able to actually be effective, and getting the dollars out the door, I guess, not necessarily being effective, but actually having results. And so I appreciate you bringing those conversations up, and we'll continue to advocate on that and continue to have those conversations. They just got to, sometimes things just got to be said. A lot of times we realize that no one's just pushing back on a few of these issues. And so we're making sure and doing that as well. And I will say in closing, because I don't want to keep anybody too long, but around LIWAP, our biggest concern is right now we have to spend roughly $11 million a month, and we did not hit that mark in March. And so now we've raised that up to $12 million. So we have, and if anybody would like it, we've broken down based on what we think, everybody's allocation that they still have left to spend. We've broken that down by the week, by the day, by the hour. If anybody wants that, I'm more than happy to send you yours for your agency so they can help you take a good look at it. We just think, being able to understand it and see it will help. And so, at the end of the day, it's going to be tough because we still got $60 million on the door and everybody's watching. I get calls weekly from OCS saying, what are you guys doing now? What are you guys doing now? Wanting to know how it's happening, and I've tried to advocate that the policy has changed, the dollars are going to start to roll again, and making sure, but and there's been some policy changes where we can pay bigger amounts now, so that helps. But we still have the issue with some of our water districts not signing on to the credit. So so that's where we're at on that. So Wilfredo, I see your hand up.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I know a while back ago there was a conversation, I guess there was a meeting between CSD, probably you guys are involved, I'm not sure, and the major water agencies in California. For us, here's Cal Water. Has any progress been made in us being able to work with them directly to reach their clients? Because last time I checked, they told us that they wanted to team up with us to work with us. So they had they're trying to find out, they can give us a list of all their past due clients, which based off the numbers they gave me in our area would probably surpass the contract amount we have. But every time I try to follow up with them, I get no response. Is there anything been done, any furthering on that relationship? What does that look like for us as LSPs in these different service areas?
Yeah, I can tell you what we've done. We've created 2 different documents. One is kind of a basic checklist. We know it's hard to do that because every agency may have some unique pieces to that. But what we did is take what we think is some of the basic information to help explain that and write that at a customer level. A lot of the documents we put out, they kind of look like what they are, which is government documents, saying this is what you need. And general public doesn't absorb that very well, because it can look long and confusing. So we've shortened that up and we created that. And our plan is to get that to each water district and then let them do what they will with that. If they want to put their own logo on it, they want to put the local agency's logo on it to how to contact. The other piece is we did take and push out a press release, and we paid to put that on the wire so that it gets the conversation in the community better. And so we've just taken some of that stuff on because we see that it's not happened as well as we think. I'm not sure if I'm totally answering your question, but that's what we're doing to try to give them the tools and the pieces so that they can recruit, so they can send out to their folks, so that they can understand who's there, who's able to qualify and who's not, and specifically the water districts that are willing to take the credit and willing to take this new program.
I appreciate the information, but that's not necessarily what I'm asking. I'm talking about like the big agencies, like again, Cal Water. I don't know, up north, it's San Francisco, LA. I'm not sure, but I think there's like 4 or 5 that are big. They have they have a list of 20,000, 40,000 people that are past due, are low income, that barring whatever processes they have to go through, could get us that information. It seems to me like they don't want to play with us because maybe they're trying to make this look like, we can't succeed. So it'd be better to give them the money to deal with it later on. That's good. Outside in, that's what it looks like to me. So that's
You're not
one.
wrong.
Yeah. So, and okay, well, so Cal Water, we had this money, sent it to clients. They were real cool when they needed information. They were calling me, they were emailing me, and the minute that I had a meeting with them and sent them some information, ghost town, man, ghosted me on emails, and I'm like, that wasn't cool, which it is what it is. But just surprised me that obviously we can't force them to work with us, and it's a business. But I don't know. I'm just bothered by the fact that they're not following up with me and us directly. We can have local people that know people who work in these different programs, organizations, and they don't contact us, and it just bothers me because they could help us if they wanted to, and I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, so I hear what you're saying now. So I'm going to take a note and then I will follow up on that, because what I think is what we're asking is we need to have a meeting like this, which is some of these major water districts, and say, how are you guys referring to the agencies? How are you getting that information over, whether it's the list, whether it's one at a time, whatever? How are you guys, how are they out targeting these folks? Because at the end of the day, we can play the politics of it. But if we do that any longer, the money's just going to go back, right? It's just going to go unspent. So we can fight it out after this is all over, but we don't have time to do that right now. You can have a disagreement, improve your point, whatever it may be. And the other thing that I'll say is this has happened in a lot of other states. I've seen it. Sometimes it works well. My experiences in the states that I have where they take this down and say, we're going to give it directly to them and allow, whether it's LIHEAP is mainly what I'm talking about. That works for about 6 months. And then they realize how much work has to go in to work with the families that we work with. And there's not very many either energy companies or water districts that say, this is what I want to do, because they fail to realize that it is a low income first. It's a low income program first, then it's an energy assistance, then it's a water assistance. But both of them start with the word low income on purpose, and to verify that, and then also have staff that are trained to be able to work around that and understand that is a pretty big undertaking. And you see it happen a lot, and then a lot of times it turns around and it comes right back. So it's trying to help them understand and prevent that from ever happening. But again, we can worry about and argue that out after this is over. But in the meantime, I'll reach out to CSD and have a conversation and say, this is one of the issues we're having. We feel like we're not getting enough information about, who they know qualify, who's got the past due bills, who just qualifies. That's what we need to know. If they know, they need to let us know. So
yeah, you make a good point, because in our conversation, actually, they said that directly. It was one of the biggest issues was, why is there so much paperwork? And I said, oh boy, we're not going down that route. These are federal dollars. Any way you look at it, there's going to be a lot of paperwork. So they were trying, from our conversation, I feel like they were trying to figure out how they could get, shorten that whole qualification process down, which there's a process we have to go through. We can't avoid it. So anyways, I appreciate it. Thanks, Dave.
yep, thanks for the comment. That gives us some direction there. I do see a comment in the chat. Are these trainings already available? And if so, how do we go about signing up staff? They are not currently. We don't have the list out yet. We're still meeting with a couple of folks, but we will make sure they'll come out from our training app. We have the list of everybody's contacts. We want to make sure if you have somebody change in your office, please let Pooja know so we can make sure we're emailing the right folks. But as soon as we get those trainings available, we'll shoot them out. As far as the strategic planning one, if you're interested in engaging that, please reach out to me, and that'll be something that we can help you spearhead. Again, I don't want to hold anybody any longer than we need to. I know you all got tons to do. Again, we do have that list of all the expenditures that are out there and what you need to target. Please feel free to reach out to me or Pooja if you're interested in that, and we'll get that to you. Also, the last thing I'll say is we do have, again, a lot of press release material that'll all be coming out. We'll send it to everybody, and that way it's an editable document so that you can take it, slap your logo on it, send it out if you want. Some of it's some different language that you can send to your local news outlets so that you can get that information out so that they know these dollars are out there, and they can help you spread the word as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, appreciate it. Happy Easter. Bye-bye.
Thanks, CalCAPA. Bye.